I'm sorry if you see notice to change the angle. I had to change the battery and everything like that. But yeah, the second one that I have for you is land prenda, or land loaning, right? You're lending out money for the land. I think this is one of the safest ways to invest your money. I've been doing it for years, because no one's gonna give up. Obviously, depending what you're giving out or lending out, no one's gonna give up a piece of property for that X amount of money, right? So the property's worth like 500,000 pesos. No one's gonna give it up for like 50,000 pesos. It's not gonna happen. They're gonna try their best to keep that property. With that said, the pros are you're constantly collecting the yields. Now that the yields on the time frame of you're constantly collecting on the harvest yields. So that can be 4 times a year, that can be twice a year, that can be once a year. It depends on what you're leasing. You're lending your money out for an exchange of the yields. So let's say for instance, let me just go through the list. I gotta stay on point, but going with this list here. Those are the pros, that you can do intervals, right? You can do intervals on doing collecting the yields, because you are the rightful owner for a set amount of time. Usually the time frame that you are given is 5 years to recoup your money on like prendas, on like land leasing or on land loaning deals. You have 5 years to make your money back, right? So, and then they can always renew with you. That's nothing. But I'm only concerned about the yields and how much money I can make from the yields, right? So now, what I have been going into is coconuts, because coconuts you can do 3 to 4 times per year. So for me, that's consistent money flow, right? And then coconuts are very hardy, right? They're very hard. It is a very hardy tree, and everything from the top to the bottom can get used. So, but you can also get into mangoes, which is about like 2 times a year. You can get into rice, which I think is once a year. It could be twice. I don't know. I've never really got into those deals. You can get into sugar, which is a very strong business in Dumaguete or Negros Oriental Occidental. Sugar, I think it's like twice a year. I think, but I just never got into it. I got into coconuts because it's super low maintenance. Like it's there already. The tree's there. Now, whether it's going to produce a lot or a little, you have to. That's where the education and the knowledge that you have to have coming onto the table. That brings me into the cons. The cons of doing the land prenda. Now, this is just referring to coconuts. Okay, just coconuts. I'm not really familiar with the other raw commodities that you can deal with, but coconuts, you got to really know, okay, the money you're giving out to the money you can make. That's super important, because your ROI is really what you're after, right? So I think there's one property that we have a lease, a loaning deal on. I think it has like let's say 100 coconuts. Like I think 100 or a little bit more than 100 coconuts. We've had that for more than 5 years, but I think I've made at least 20% per year. Yeah, if I remember right, because I remember one time like, oh, we made mostly our money back that we lent out, and then it worked out for us for coconuts, because there were a lot of fruit bearing coconuts. These things were like really pumping them out. I don't know if Bacong in general, very fertile land, a super fertile land, so it was conducive for that situation for that time. But then again, coconuts, there's a time frame for them. They will eventually die, or some coconuts for some reason are not bearing as much. So yet that's something you have to really factor in if you want to go into those deals. This is how the breakdown is when you're dealing with the harvesters, because you or me, I am not physically going up 100 coconut trees to bring down all these coconuts. They gotta crack it, scrape it, and leave the green part, right? I'm like, that's not me. I'm just there to invest, right? So what ends up happening is the deal I have with the harvesters is 50%. So what happens is when they take all this stuff, they already have a connect with the copra mill buyers, which is basically the guy who buys what they're after is the inside of the meat, the coconut meat, because that's what they turn into the copra, which is the food that they feed the cattle, I mean the cows and the goats. Sometimes they do it with pigs and stuff like that. This is also the, you know, the byproduct of that. When they squeeze that stuff is also, you know, coconut oil. When they take it to copra buyer, they're gonna weigh it as a raw just coconut meat. They're gonna weigh it. When those numbers come out, they show you the receipts and they cut it in half. Like 50% goes to me for my investment, 50% goes to the harvesters. Now, this is a common like tradition. Harvesters come in, let's say there was like 5 of them, whatever. They break that amongst themselves, that half, right? So what ends up happening is you buy them a case of beer or some Tanduay or Emperador, just to, you know, a social lubricant. That's pretty much it. The 4,000 pesos I made off that deal, and I have it for 5 years. No headaches. It's just there. Like, okay, the property's there. Obviously, keep your books right. Know where your properties are. It's a good deal. And here's some risks with the land leasing. Just be aware of, you know, the yield to what you're giving out ratio. Watch out for like, you know, people who want to take you for everything. Like, you know, some landowners will be like, oh, this guy has money. Let me ask him, can you give me another 20,000, whatever, 50,000. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense anymore. So that's something to look out for. You have to be somewhat knowledgeable about, you know, ask your wife, ask whoever that you trust, how much can these make every single interval or every single harvest, right? You give a rough estimate, and I'm like, okay, how much is this, how much is that? That deal I lent out like 100,000 pesos. So 100,000 pesos times that by 4, like I usually made like, let's say 4,000 pesos on every harvest. So I know that land has 4 harvests. We've harvested 4 times. I basically made 16,000 on a 100,000 peso deal for that 1 year. So that, what is that? That's 16%, not 20%. I'm sorry. So then for the next 5 years, I know I made around that every single year. So technically, when I came out of that deal, I made more than 50% of my money, my initial investment, right? So, because I had other stuff on those properties, you know, because you technically own the property for the 5 years. So I had cattle on there, I had stuff on there. So I made that was a good deal for me, right? So I needed the money for another venture, so another buyer bought me out, and you know, it was an investment. I had it for 5 years, move on. Right? Because eventually what's gonna happen is, this is something to be aware of. What's gonna happen is some of the people that your lendees, or the people that are asking for the money, they're gonna keep asking for more. Right? They're gonna keep asking for more in exchange for the yields. Now, there's gonna be a point where you're giving out more money than what it can yield. This is where you have to pull out. The woman kept asking me for more money. She kept asking me for more, and that's not the first lady. This has happened many times, but kept asking for more money. It just didn't make any more sense, so I had to let it go. So, you know, I moved on with it. You know, I got bought out, and then, you know, I moved on. The legals on it, I mean, so I discussed your ROI, your potential ROI, right? The legals on it is this once again. I've never had well, they did ask me if I was a Filipino citizen. I said yeah, but this can be done with another trusted, you know, Filipina, you know, or Filipino. If you're ladies out there watching with a Filipino husband, everything gets ran through the barangay. Like, everything is notarized. You have a letter that states that so and so person, you know, you're giving money in exchange for handling the property for the 5 years. That's the only legals you get for protection from it, right? So, yeah. And that's my take on land loaning.